Thank you again to our keynote speaker. We can all agree that education is the passport to the future, and tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Part of the work that we're doing today is to focus on how we can leverage technology to improve the learning outcomes and innovation in education. Our moderator for this last panel goes by the name of Mr. Temi Kolawole. Mr. Temi Kolawole is the Managing Director of the Ilorin Innovation Hub, the new technology center established by the administration of His Excellency Abdulrahman Abdulrazaq to transform the Kwara into an economically viable state via digital literacy, technology, and youth empowerment. Temi has a first degree in computer engineering from Babcock University and an MBA in revenue management from Kwara State University, and an executive certificate in entrepreneurship from Harvard University. Please welcome me in joining Mr. Temi Kolawole.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Your Excellency, thank you for this opportunity. Please permit me to stand on all existing protocols while I go ahead and invite the panelists for this session. This session is titled Next, Education in the Future, Innovation and Technology. How can we leverage technology to improve learning outcomes and innovation in education? Our first panelist is Professor Lasiele Yahaya from the Faculty of Education, University of Ilorin. Our second panelist is Michael Oglegba, the CEO of Study Lab. Next, we have Dr. Kumbi Wuraola, the Director of Policy and Partnerships for Africa at the New Globe Education. And last but not least, we have Bola Lawal, who is the founder of Come Learnam and Scholar X. So thank you very much to all the panelists for being here. I'm not going to take too much time for this particular panel, but we really just want to look at how technology can be used to achieve everything that we've been talking about today. I'm sure we all know that education itself is a form of communication. Education is a transfer of knowledge. For education to happen, there has to be a transfer of knowledge from somebody who already knows to somebody who doesn't know. And that is what happens using communication. And in the day and age that we live in, I'm sure we are all aware that there is almost no form of communication that can happen without technology. In the world that we live in, we have moved from human beings sending animals on errands or physically traveling long distances to deliver messages to being able to reach any single person in the world by the click of a button via a mobile device. So right now we want to see how exactly technology can be used to help us advance education here in Kwara State. So my very first question is going to be for Professor Yahaya. Sir, from your experience, what are the biggest challenges to education at the state level and Kwara State in particular?
Thank you very much. I want to stand on the existing protocol, but specifically, I want to appreciate our governor. I want to say that I'm proud of him because we have seen some changes. Though we have not gotten to where we want to get, we have seen improvement, and we thank God for that. I want to appreciate the royal fathers that are here too. So with that, there are various challenges facing education in Kwara State. The first one that I've observed has to do with facilities. A tour of schools around, even the government house here, if you go to schools along Fati, you will see many schools that are having problems in terms of facilities. The roofs are blown off, and up till now, they've not been fixed. We have inadequate classrooms. The number of students in a class is beyond what a single teacher can handle at a time. When you have more than 50 students, the minimum requirement is about 30, but you have 50, 60, in some cases you have 100 in a class. So this issue of facilities, when I say facilities, I'm not talking about only the building. I'm talking about the other equipment that are needed to be able to teach effectively. Teaching nowadays has gone beyond just teacher in the classroom teaching. Education now is for total development. And when we talk about total development, we are talking about cognitive development. That is knowledge of reading and writing, mathematics, geography, physics, chemistry. We are talking about affective domain. That one too is a major challenge because it's neglected. And that's why we are having problem with our children nowadays, with the youth nowadays. The affective domain has been neglected. Values, punctuality, accountability, trustworthiness, all these values that are supposed to be learned at home and in school are no longer properly being taken care of. That's a major challenge. Another one is the issue of psychomotor domain. When we talk about total development, we are talking about cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Psychomotor is that you, apart from being able to read and write, apart from being of good behavior, you must be able to use your hand, you must be productive. And that is why this issue of acquisition of vocational skills, entrepreneurial skills, need to be properly emphasized. We don't need to wait until students get to university before we start introducing them to vocational skills. They need to have studied them, observed them, identify their interests, and tailor their activities towards their area of interest. So we need to work on this. Another one which the governor has done well, I'm not a politician, I'm an academician, is the issue of regular payment of salary. Once people are hungry, how will the school head control them? You can't control teachers when they have not been paid their salary. But this idea of paying them on time, we really appreciate it. Whatever remains in terms of incentives, I want to appeal to our governor to look into that. Whatever the demand of the teachers, I'm happy I heard about the issue of promotion areas, that are the backlog of promotion that have been cleared. That's a good development. And I want the governor and the government to continue to do that. You are doing the right thing. Don't look backward. Just continue to do what you are doing. In terms of funding, we need more funds at schools because we need to buy some materials to be able to perform effectively and efficiently in the schools. We understand that the purse of the government is lean because we rely mainly on crude oil. And crude oil is not selling as it used to be. Definitely the revenue that is coming to the state government will be reduced. So we understand that. But I think we can look for other means of getting revenue. And what are we going to do? Let us do what Lagos is doing. Let us do partnership. Let us have more companies. In the past, we had many companies in Ilorin here. Many of them have folded up. Why don't we do something in reviving and bringing these industries? I want to commend your effort in Lafiaji. That you are bringing sugar back to Lafiaji is commendable. Please keep it up, sir. But we want things like that in Ilorin too. Apart from Dangote and Cam Wire, I don't know of any other one.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Prof. Does anybody else have anything to add to some of the major challenges that we're facing that can be solved using innovation and technology?
Oh, Your Excellency, sir, I stand on existing protocol. You know, the world is now a global village. The job seeker here is competing against somebody in New York. It's no longer against Lagos. So the standards must be the same. If the first time a JAM student sees a computer and interacts with it is on the day of the exam, he can't score 300. He won't score 300. He'll be lucky to score 160. That's the reason why you see other states are doing better in WAEC, although our enrollment figures are good. If a child does not start learning STEM from primary school, he's already late in the world. If the teacher does not understand the basics of computer science, STEM, the importance of it, what is he going to communicate to the student? Even if you employ 10,000 new teachers. So it is important that we have teacher training must come first, it must come second, it must come third. Teachers can be trained just like students will be trained using delivery systems that are modern and known. There are systems that can teach them how to basically communicate the new kind of way things are taught. It is no longer fashionable to say 8 times 8. It is 8 people have 8 tasks to do, so that the student now translates that into what is applicable. That way, he can apply it to real-life situations. Students now learn how to solve problems, how to think critically, how to apply knowledge to real-life situations. But the teacher first has to know what to do. And the way to know it is the way we train them. I advocate that at the beginning of, before a session starts, teachers must be trained. This is expensive. So how do we train them? The state currently has computer rooms in many schools. We can send the curriculum to those places. They can go through this curriculum. However, they must be tested before every term. It is very possible. Just the way that students do CBT exams in JAM, why can't the teachers do the same? Let's be sure that they will know what they are teaching. That is very basic. So we can now have a core team preparing the curriculum in the center, transmitting this to those other centers, and then the teachers are trained always. When they know, when we are sure the teachers know, then we can be sure that they can communicate this to the students. And then we can have students interact with these systems often. Thank you.
So you have actually gone ahead and answered my second question, which was, sometimes when we think of education, we only think of students. But without good teachers, there's nothing to teach the students. So we're looking at how we can quickly improve the quality of teachers using technology and innovation. And I'm sure we'll get to hear a bit more ways that that can happen from some of the other panelists. Now, for Dr. Kumbi, how do we want to define innovation for children? We talk about technology, innovation. Can a 4-year-old understand the concept of innovation? How do you define innovation when it comes to children, to kids?
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, sir, let me start off by asking this question. What is innovation? Innovation can be likened to technology because technology is indeed an innovative way of doing some things we have been doing in the past. So give a phone to a baby. Before you know it, the baby is pressing the phone. The baby is doing some things without you teaching that child. And that goes to speak to the fact that technology, innovation is what you make of it, and every child, every person can indeed be part of it. So it's not restricted to the age, it's not restricted to gender, it's not restricted to whether you live in rural or urban area. It is what is available to others. And it's never too early. It's never too early. Innovation is the improvement on existing systems, existing technology, existing curriculum, existing things that happen not only in education, but in all sectors of the world. And the pandemic that happened recently opened our eyes to the opportunities. We became disruptive. Education continued despite the lockdown. We had learnings in the homes. We had radio learnings, audio lessons. We had TV. And this was available even to children in the ECD. They could learn. But how can you be innovative about this? How can we ensure that learning happens even from that age? When we're talking about technology and innovation, it has to be scalable. And we have to be conscious of our environment. We don't have free funds. So it has to be something that is also affordable. Something that will not cost us our head, all our body, to pay through to get it. Beyond it, it has to be something sustainable. So when we're talking about innovation, in learning, in education, little things like even the phone can be used in an innovative way. We can have the curriculum of our teachers loaded. We can have WhatsApp quizzes that our pupils, our children can learn even after school hours to continue what they have learned while they're in school. We can have downloadable lessons as MP3 players that they can listen to and they can use as a workbook. This costs us next to nothing, yet learning is happening. But beyond learning happening, how do you now measure that learning has happened? The outcomes. And that takes me to the teachers, because when you're talking about innovation, it has not only to be pupil-centric, it also has to be teacher-centric. How do you ensure that the teachers are positioned to support the pupils that are learning in an innovative way? Because the teachers also have to be trained innovatively. And teacher training, does it ensure that we're putting all of them together? Look at how we are all seated. Social distancing. So how do we train our teachers using technology? How do we ensure that their time in class is maximized using innovative tools? Where curriculum is loaded on the tablets, for example, on their phones, and they can be able to teach, not only teach, measure the pace. In classes, we have different types of learners. How are they going to be able to attend to the needs of each of these learners? We know, for those of us in the education sector, we know about TAL. How do they ensure that each grade is the curriculum appropriate for that grade is. So innovation is continuous, but it has to be, like I said, it has to be affordable, it has to be scalable, and it also has to be sustainable.
Thank you. So you're telling us there's no age that's too young for a child to start learning via innovation. The mobile phone, the mobile device, I think is one of the best inventions that would help aid education. This is not used for just communication anymore. It's used for learning. And I think it's a very important key to the future that we are looking for in education in Kwara State. So next, Bola, can you very quickly, since we're running out of time, in about 3 or more minutes, can you tell us, so we've talked about curriculums and learning for children. We all know the normal, regular subjects, physics, chemistry, geography, mathematics, English, history. Are there any, what else do you think can be added to our current curriculums in schools that students need to learn at both primary and secondary levels?
Thank you very much, Temi. And Your Excellency, thank you for having us here and permit me on standing on existing protocols. This is a very good question, because when we look at education, what we need to ask ourselves is, what's the end goal? Getting fancy degrees, or getting good jobs, or being entrepreneurs and be a meaningful member of society where you're producing and adding back to the economy. So there are different things that are critical that need to be added. But one thing I want to focus on, because of time specifically, is digital skills. According to the IFC, an arm of the World Bank, by the year 2030, 230 million jobs will require some sort of digital skills. We could see clearly with the pandemic how a lot of people were out of jobs because they did not have digital skills. And some of the panelists had mentioned earlier about starting early. And this is why it's critical that digital skills are taught early. And so I'd like to just talk a little bit about a platform that we built called LearnUp, like LearnUp in Pidgin. And it's to learn digital skills and vocational skills from the comfort of your feature phone, Android phone, or a tablet. And what it does is you sign up and you can learn digital skills or vocational skills. And particularly, the provost was just here from Ivy Tech, and we visited 2 months ago, and we have a partnership going on with them. And there's a project that we've proposed to teach students here in Kwara how to assemble phones and devices. Devices such as this that I have with me will be assembled here in Kwara. And what it does specifically is that the content on this device can be accessed even without the internet. And it will come for cheap if it's produced or assembled locally. So these are some of the things, and it's in partnership with with Ivy Tech, along with the Ilorin Innovation Hub, and our partners, Replica. Because one of the key things to be able to deliver digital skills en masse to people is partnerships. Also partnership with Airtel, because affordability and accessibility has always been an issue. And so what we really want to focus on is being able to get these skills out to people effectively and in a mass scale. Digital skills are very important, learning digital marketing, learning how to use different tools online. There are free tools online that a lot of people don't have access to. So if we start early on, from primary to secondary, infuse digital skills in our curriculum. Also, His Excellency, we've heard a lot of news about certain initiatives to get digital skills and some of the pop-up school ICT centers across the state. And those are noble initiatives that we feel will really help with the digital skills deficiency that we have, and really help a lot of young people access these skills. So, it's not just computer anymore. You can be here in Ilorin and be working for a company in Lagos or a company in New York and be earning meaningful salary to help within your community here. So digital skills is one thing that we really think that should be added or to be really emphasized in curriculum. So thank you.
Thank you. So in summary, the traditional form of curriculums of education before, you're either in science class or in commercial class or arts class, but in the modern day that we live in, some students can go ahead and start learning skills like phone assembly, even how to fix a car. You can learn how to become a mechanic using digital skills via mobile devices. There's courses that teach people how to bake, how to do different things in fashion, and all sorts of vocational skills. All of these are still education. These are all things that people are supposed to be able to learn, not only because you want to get a degree and work, but some people just want to learn a trade. And it's also something very important that we have to factor in curriculums, whether at the state or any other level. My next question, I think, has also been answered to an extent about STEM and the fact that introducing children to science, to technology, mathematics at a very, very early age helps increase the chances of them being successful in those fields later on. Today, I might be here as the MD of the Ilorin Innovation Hub, but I can tell you that the very first time I touched a computer was maybe when I was 4 or 5 years old. And as a 4 or 5 years old, I was able to navigate a computer, play games, and ever since then, the computer has been my best friend. So let's introduce kids. I think kids now even have a better chance because when I was growing up, there was no mobile phone. There were no tablets. We didn't have easy access to electronic media like where we have now. Like Doctor mentioned earlier, if you give a baby or a 1 or 2 year old a phone, you'll be surprised the way they start navigating the phone like it belongs to them. So we need to...
With federal government, this issue of ranches, agriculture is the mainstay. Either we like it or not in Nigeria, our potential lies in agriculture. And when we talk about agriculture, we're not talking about farming alone. There are various aspects of farming. I don't see why we don't have ranches in Kwara State. The federal government said he has assisted some states. I believe our states should key in and get this thing done, benefit from federal government. If possible, if we have private individuals that want to establish ranches, we can establish ranches and get our people employed, and from there we get revenue for the state. That's another way of getting revenue. Then secondly, we have to try to reduce or minimize loopholes. When we collect revenue, are they getting to the right source? Is the revenue getting to the state government? We need to block loopholes, if there are loopholes.
Thank you, sir.
In the past, there used to be, but I think government should also look into that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
On the issue of revenue, I think
funding more. Funding. How does the state get additional funding for these projects?
Yes, on the issue of funding, yeah. I think there are two ways to go about this. If, for example, you want to deploy technology and students have access to technology, there are two ways to go. I'm in the private sector. So if you call somebody and say, okay, you give me a delivery system, I provide content because I have the professors, I have the teachers, it will drop the cost down significantly. That means the state already owns content that they are well unaware of. Number two, if you now tell that organization, that private sector organization, that this is long-term, I'm going to sign a long-term agreement with you, so that drops the unit cost of that transaction significantly. Also, if you bring in people within the state that have interest in this and tell them, this is what we're trying to do, I'm sure they too will want to contribute. Lastly, education is expensive anywhere. Wherever it is free, someone is paying. Even in the Old West, the slides that were shown, they said parents paid.
Thank you.
Right.
We're wrapping up.
So
please just wrap
basically,
up.
there are things that you can do, that the state can do to fund this.
Bola, 30 seconds.
Okay, real quick, 30 seconds. Blended finance is something I feel like needs to be talked about the most, and it's an example of something we're working with Ivy Tech. there are development finance institutions that are willing to fund projects, but they want committed governments that they believe that whatever amount of money will be put will go to it, and private sector participation. So we, Scholar X, working with Ivy Tech and a development finance organization will put money in addition to already committed funds. So blended finance, I think, is a very, very key thing with grants, with funding institutions like the World Bank, African Development Bank, but they need to see what's happening already and already commitments. So if it's a project that we want to build some labs, want to build technology parks, is the government putting down land? Is the private sector participating? And then they can put some funds in. Because education is very expensive, and resources are very few and far between. So people are really interested in funding, but they want to make sure that their funds are effective. So blended finance is something we really need to look at. Thank you.
Learning finance.
Blended finance.
Blended finance. Okay, so basically the state government needs to look at more partnerships of how to work with international agencies like the World Bank, AFDB, that they actually have funds for several education projects that will just require showing some level of commitment from the state government. For example, provision of other non-monetary contributions like land for projects.
Correct.
All right. To wrap up this session, I would like to throw open my last question, which is, we all have the governor of Kwara State right here. We have all the major stakeholders in the education sector right here. What advice, not general advice now, that has to do with innovation and technology in particular, do you have for them? They're right here, they are listening to you. What advice do you have for the state government with regards to technology in education? Dr. Kumbi, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say something quickly about financing. Accessing finance is different from attracting finance. So the state has to be positioned to attract finance, and all the things that have been said indeed can attract finance. But something that I find, and I'd like to also commend His Excellency, is the Education Trust Fund Bill, because it shows that you're committed to that. And it's not only about your administration or your tenure of office, it's also strategic because it is forward-looking into the future. So all of that will attract funding, obviously. And so, how
Advice.
One, I'd say that transformation, reform in education sector is not easy, and so you have to be very bold and decisive because the challenges are there, but it's the end result, which might not necessarily start off in the immediate. And so it might take time for us to see, but if the administration and if the state is really determined that this happens, then it will be. So first, the quick wins for me will be one, the teacher training cannot be emphasized. We need to identify teacher gap and also upskill our teachers. The teacher capacity has to be upskilled. And for us to do all these things, we need to know the data and know how to allocate resources, which schools need to be fixed, what is the curriculum we're teaching our pupils, how to ensure that the school management, so from our SUBEB to TESCOM and all of that, that they are also receiving adequate funding, support, and training. And last but not the least, the assessment, measuring of the outcomes from this learning. This will be my advice to the government on what the next steps to do. Of course, this can only be done with the support of technology and innovation. I'd like to say that what the human mind can conceive, it can one day consider. What the human mind can consider for long enough, it can one day believe. And what the human mind can believe, it can one day act upon. And that is what I'm challenging Kwara State to do, to act upon all these things. Thank you.
Mine is short. Invest in young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else? I think we're done for the panel. So in summary, I think we've all looked at how we need to make sure we do not ignore the teachers. The teachers are the key to education. Mobile devices are a very, very good way of passing across technology via distant learning. You can be in your house and earn your first degree, your second degree, and your third degree, all without ever visiting the campus physically. This is possible in the day and age we are in now. So I would also want to chip in that I encourage the Kwara State Government to carry out a lot of more learning programs virtually, where you are able to break past restrictions of infrastructure, capacity. This building here right now can probably not take more than 1,000 or more people. But we're streaming this session right now to a wider audience via the use of technology. So technology breaks borders, it removes limitations, and you can access a broader number of people at the same time for learning programs using technology. So many institutions right now that had problems during the pandemic could not survive physical classes, but they were able to go into virtual learning. I thank you very much to all the panelists and everybody here. I hope we've all learned something on how we can move technology forward using technology and innovation. Thank you.